out to join her, and he can only ride his thumb. A man picks him up, okay, and the man's name is Charles Haskell. The fellow who picks him up seems to have medical problems because he's always taking pills, and I don't think we're supposed to think that he's taking the pills for fun. He also tells a story about how he's got a scar on his arm from a dueling that he did when he was like a teenager, a dumb kid. Him and this other kid were playing games, and he put the other kid's eye out, and he got a scar on his arm, and he just took off. He ran away from home because he couldn't face his parents knowing what he'd done. Okay. Now he also has some scratches on his hand, the back of his hand, and he said it was from the deadliest animal of all, a woman. He had picked up a woman, and apparently he sexually harassed her, which is not a term that was known in those days. But she didn't believe that she owed it to him to risk a pregnancy or an STD for the sake of a ride, so he got scratched. All right, now it doesn't take too long before it starts raining, and Haskell dies. And does he die of natural causes, or does he fall out of the car and hit his head? We're not really sure. But it doesn't appear that Al Roberts had anything to do with his death. But Al Roberts thinks, oh my God, they're going to think I killed this guy. And so Al Roberts, gets rid of the body and then takes over his identity and puts on his clothes and drives his car. And he decides to pick up this poor woman who, looks like she's had a rough time of it. Now, he also notes that once she's in the car that she seems quite pretty, but she also seems like she's had a rough time of it. It's a kind of homely beauty. She's played by Anne Savage. And Anne Savage gives what has got to be one of those savage performances in history, because she was the woman who scratched Charles Haskell. She realizes that Al Roberts is not Charles Haskell. And from there, things get really bad. I don't want to put in any more spoilers. I'd rather you watch the movie, because the movie is the definitive Tom Neal performance, and perhaps the ultimate Anne Savage performance as well, at least as far as playing a really nasty character. Now, one thing I want to point out is that she's often considered a femme fatale, but she's not a femme fatale, because there's a little bit of flirtation sometimes between the two characters, but not much. And so I don't think she merits the title femme fatale. But the odd thing about Detour is that it kind of resembles the life of its star, Tom Neal, in a lot of ways. A few years after making this film, he became involved with with Barbara Payton, whom I've discussed before. And like a lot of people, she seesawed between people to whom she was attracted. She was attracted very much to Franchette Tone. She was attracted to Tom Neal. Franchette Tone had a kind of debonair, sophisticated attractiveness. Tom Neal, it was more the physical, sexual thing. But she went back and forth between these men, and it ended up with the two men getting into a fist fight, which was not less of a fight than it was Tom Neal just clobbering Franchette Tone into a coma and almost killing him. Now, he didn't actually have to face charges because Barbara Payton decided to marry Franchette Tone, and so Franchette Tone thought the best way for them to kind of go forward was not to bother pressing charges against Tom Neal. Okay, so in a way he got away with it, but in a way he didn't, because after a little while, Barbara Payton left Franchot to go back to Tom Neal. They never married, but they got together, and as a result of their getting together, basically both of them were blacklisted in Hollywood. Um, the relationship is one of those things that kind of reminds me of that old saying, be careful what you wish for, you may get it. The two of them lasted a couple of years, and then they split up because, you know, I think that even though they had a very strong physical attraction and apparently some pretty good sex, each of them kind of held it against the other that their relationship basically destroyed their careers. And they did a lot of bickering. And plus, you have Tom Neal is jealous natured. Barbara Payton is not somebody for monogamy, and that's not a good, it's just not a good recipe. Anyway, after they split up, with neither of them getting any work in Hollywood, Tom Neal decided, it was best to take off, go to another place, and kind of start his life over again. So he lived in Palm Springs as a landscaper. He married his wife. He married, had a son. His wife died. He married a third time. He'd been married before he met Barbara Payton, and